So now, when for the first time you're actually no longer believing that the church was what it claims to be, were you scared? Did the thought of no longer believing, and even worse, the thought of leaving it, did that scare you?
Totally.
What was that like? What were the things that you thought and felt as you contemplated the possibility of leaving the church?
Yeah, so here's the deal. When the tower fell for me, I was overcome with anxiety and just this mourning, you know, sort of my life before as I knew it. And so I feel like that anxiety led me to have a lot of fear. And ironically, that's what led me to new building blocks right away. And it helped me start rebuilding. But at that time, yes, I was overcome with fear and anxiety for a time. And I, as a reaction, had then to come up with some coping strategies. But those fears would have been that my marriage was going to suffer in a major way, that my family would suffer in some way because of the choices that we were making, and that I would suffer a death of a loved one, and that I would just fall apart.
Death of a loved one? What do you mean?
Just death of a loved one, because I feel like that existential sort of piece, or the death piece, just sort of came alive in that moment. And I don't know, it had lived with me, I think, all along, but it came to a head then. Those were the three things that I think really came alive for me.
That it could hurt your marriage, that it could hurt your children, and what about death now?
And what about death?
Because the church had plugged that hole regarding death, and now all of a sudden that hole got unplugged.
Yes, and I realized that they hadn't done that cognitively for me, but they had done it emotionally or psychologically in some way for me.
And if you could describe kind of the worst fears that your brain would put forth about leaving the church, what was your brain feeding you? Oh my gosh.
Like all my kids will be on drugs. All my kids they'll have early pregnancies. Our marriage isn't going to last. We're going to get divorced. There'll be infidelity. I'm going to suffer a tragedy of some sort now. That sort of all those things that the church tells you happens to people that leave would happen. I'd be like a walking testament of, see, that's what happens to you.